walk out to the show and fall at your door. We got that info for you. Touchdown on that plane and buy anything. More than just a podcast for you.
Welcome to another edition of the 10-4 YouTube show. I'm your host, James Etta Cleveland, and joining me today is one of our regulars, Coach Kevin Tolliver, and we've got two new panelists today, Coach Terry and Coach Jordan. I'll give them a moment to just introduce yourselves, let our listeners know who you are and what sports you coach.
Hey, I'm Terry Bryant. I coach middle school boys football. I am also one of the very few females across the nation that coaches football. I am also a basketball coach and football coach, and I'm also a health coach. I reside in Lexington, Kentucky. My son is a high profile player. He has multiple D1 offers for football. He's also uh, a national player in the baseball ranking. So he's a dual sport athlete. So I am absolutely excited to be here on this panel. Thank you for inviting me.
Welcome. We're glad to have you.
Congrats.
Coach
Hey, how
Jordan?
y'all doing? I'm Jordan Smith from Nashville, Tennessee. I coach high school football and high school basketball, um, and that's really about it. Just a young coach trying to learn and love talking about topics and spreading some knowledge that I've gained through my experiences.
Look at the modesty, but do you just coach? Didn't you play?
Yes, I played football at Tennessee Tech University. I played wide receiver there, and after that, I continued to play arena football, which I'm still playing to this point. So I'm doing a little bit of both. So it's good to have playing experience and coaching experience because there's a lot of things that people don't know that they should probably know and don't know which questions to ask, and that's what we're here for. So I'm thankful for this opportunity.
Yes, and to all of our listeners out there, these are people that are doing it right now in the athletic world today in COVID. So stalk them on social media because there is great information. There's a wealth of knowledge, and how do I get this done to be found by people that are doing it right now. So having said that, we'll go ahead. Y'all know how I do. We'll dive right in. We're going to start off by let's talk in college football. So this weekend, a host of games were either canceled or postponed due to COVID. Alabama, LSU, Ohio State, Maryland. There have been tons of games that are just either canceled or rescheduled. And it's been like this ever since the beginning of the year. Teams or key players are missing games due to COVID. In light of this, just when you look at this entire college football season, will the college football championship have the same meaning this year? Will we really be able to determine which team is the best in college football? Anybody can take it. Just dive right in.
I'm gonna let the new guys go first.
I'll go real quick just so I can get it out of the way. Um, this is how I see it. To me, I look at COVID like an injury. Okay, so let's look at uh, maybe last year when Tua got hurt at Alabama. I mean, you know did did Clemson really get an opportunity to, I don't know if they were really the legit best team, because if Tua hadn't got hurt, I don't know if it would have been Alabama versus Clemson in the championship game with Alabama again taking the championship last year. So to me, when people are losing games or missing games because of COVID, it's almost, I look at it like an injury. So I think it'll be the same. It won't, it'll be very, I don't know, just hurtful for a lot of teams. And even with the game yesterday with Ohio State. So I'm not a Ohio State fan, but I'm a Justin Fields fan. And so right now I felt like Justin Fields should have been one of the top contenders for the Heisman this year. But because of their missing games, he's not going to have the numbers that maybe some of the other quarterbacks are going to have because of COVID. And that's going to be very unfortunate. So I feel like it's like an injury.
Okay.
This is something that's going to be talked about for the next 50 years, probably. So I don't think that there's a wrong or a right answer necessarily. But if you look at the top teams who were fighting for those playoff spots, it's the teams that we would have expected from the start, anyways, in my opinion. Now, what could affect them down the line is, does a coach miss a game? Does a coach miss a playoff game? Does a key player miss a playoff game? And like you said, it's kind of like having an injury. So I don't think you're going to put an asterisk by it and say, oh, well, they won, but they didn't do it. At the end of the day, a national championship is a national championship. And, that experience and those kids fighting and going through all that stuff may add an extra layer of, wow, we did that in this type of season. So, 20 years from now, and those kids have a national championship ring, they're not going to say, well, it was a COVID season. We didn't do this, we didn't do that. Everybody had to fight through it. Everybody had to deal with the same thing. It's kind of like when you play in snow and you play in weather. And everybody said, well, it was snowing. Everybody had to play in it. Everybody had to deal with the same circumstances. So for me, I don't think it'll be any less of a championship, but I guess it just depends on going forward what happens with coaches and key players. But I don't know. It's like a tough situation. But as far as the top dogs and who we know we're going to be right there, I think everybody's still right there. And I think the SEC and these conferences are going to fight to get those teams in and try to make it work. But I don't know. Funny situation.
Well, it's good that Ms. Bryant brings up a good point. She looks at it like an injury. I'm gonna side with 100% on that. When you look at stuff, but at the end of the day, nothing changes in football. Who prepares the best? Who coaches the best? Who has the best talent? Who has the best playbook? It's all of these big picture items that comes into play of being the best team when we get on that football field. So now that, not to downplay COVID, but now that COVID's in the place of it, yes, it's like a really serious injury amongst all. So now you're going to find out, who can, what's the word they use a lot? Adversity. Who's going to have the best adversity overall dealing with this COVID and to prepare, to win every Saturday, Friday, whenever they play, and then to win, to be the best team. So at the end of the day, I'm not giving nobody no excuses. I mean, I'm gonna just tell you right now, I don't care if it's LSU, Alabama, Clemson, Virginia Tech, Miami, it doesn't matter. Listen, you get paid to coach and prepare. Now we have to find out what people can do. The same thing they preach to these players and these kids. Now let's see what the coaches can do in adversity. How you gonna prepare your team underneath all of this outside interference? So at the end of the day, Ms. Bryant, that's just a great way to look at it. A great analogy, a great whatever, A to Z. It's just a great way to look at it. It's just one of those big injuries that every team has got to face now. Every team, not just one, every one of them. Now we're going to find out what kind of staff you got. That's my opinion.
See, that hurt my heart because my Wolverines are trashed this year. So I guess we have a bad staff and we can't recruit. Bless it. I'm going to say I kind of disagree a little bit because I think that there will be a little bit of an asterisk, but not from the player's perspective. I don't think it's a player thing. I think really we're exposing money and the actual, I'm struggling for the right word, but everybody likes Power 5. But I look at Coastal Carolina. They're a fabulous example of a small guy that is doing an amazing job. And I'm kind of pissed because I just know that they're not going to get an opportunity to play for a college football championship, even though legitimately they're on the road doing amazing things. So it's not that I question the process, but I am saying that I think that we have to do a better job, going forward in general, of saying who outside of the Power 5 really deserves a spot. Because Jordan, you're absolutely right. It's the same old, same old. I couldn't understand how Ohio State or Penn State could be ranked in the top 15 and they hadn't even played it down yet. That blew my mind. So I'm like, are we really giving all schools an opportunity to actually go out and compete and taking them all seriously. And in this year, we really should be doing that because no one's playing a full season. So I won't say an asterisk, but I will say I'm feeling some kind of way that I know that nobody's going to say Coastal Carolina gets a shot, even though they've been playing of a season so far. So not quite an asterisk, but I am wondering about the process more so this year than I have other years, if that makes sense.
Hey, I'm gonna throw a little joke in here, but I remember the last time a team said they should be in the Power Five and be competing and everything. Then they get to the playoff and get their head beat in. We all know who that was, right?
Let's not talk about Notre Dame like that.
I know.
I'm just saying that
I said it was a joke.
They're really cool. So, next question. Let's talk the NFL. A couple weeks ago, AB signed a contract with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. He's finally got a home. Is this the season that he really gets his mind right and he plays football without the circus? Is he going to make it through the year?
Well, I guess that remains to be seen. You know, you just don't know an individual. You just don't know human, movement unless you really, really know them, and you're in their corner or you with them every day or you're counseling them or you're mentoring them or whatever the case may be. So at the end of the day, you just don't know. We pray that he does well because we know he can play. He's a great player. He's good. I just think he went through some stuff, that really overtook him. And we're just going to have to see. It's my opinion.
I agree. I think that he didn't have the right people in his corner, obviously. He needed somebody to take away his phone or his computer or whatever type of internet access. I am encouraged personally because he had like that moment where he was still posting all the crazy stuff, but then he had several months of silence. Like since the season has started and even a little bit before, you haven't seen the outbursts. And even since he signed his contract with Tampa Bay, you really haven't seen him being out in public. You haven't seen him posting things in the way that he had in the past. So I'm hopeful that he has done the mental health work and has evaluated his circle. I've heard that he's living with Tom Brady, so he's evaluated his circle and that he's going to get
different size, don't it?
I believe that he has the best chance that he's had in a few years to make it through the season, simply because, like you said, being around Tom Brady, being on a contender, and then he hasn't had the outburst that he's had. But we just don't know, because for the longest, we never knew Antonio Brown was like this. His first 10 years in the league, nobody knew that this was even a possibility for him. So it seems like it comes and goes. It seems like he has outbursts, but we'll see what happens as the weeks go on and he's not the number one receiver. And, Mike Evans is getting the targets, and what happens if they're winning and everything's fine, I think things will go well. But if not, that's when we're going to see if his true character, see if he's changed and see what he's willing to do. But like you said, so far so good. He seems to have been flying under the radar. But I think it just remains to be seen with him. But I think him being in Florida, where he's from, may be beneficial for him actually. But maybe it's not, because being in Florida, maybe he'll be around some people that he wouldn't be around when he was in Pittsburgh and doing well. So I don't know. That's just a really tough question. I hope he does well, but I kind of fell out with him because it's a guy who throws away $30 million and throws away an opportunity when you got people who are working for these opportunities, and he just over a helmet and over talking crazy to GMs and just stuff that just, as a professional, you just don't do, especially somebody who's as great a receiver as he is. And then he's a Hall of Famer. He's a first ballot Hall of Famer. He's just messing up his status. This is the type of things they caught up with Terrell Owens and these type of guys. And you just hate to see somebody so talented go through this for no reason and throw money away, leave it on the table for no reason. But hopefully, he'll get it right this year, and his team will be successful and he'll have success.
Oh my God, I agree. All you can do is just keep him in prayer and keep him prayed up that he just has a network of people that, just helps him and make sure they keep him grounded. This was definitely obviously mental health issue. And I don't know if he had a breakdown or I stopped following him. I forgot when I stopped following him, but it's been a while. I stopped following him because I just wanted to, I just shook my head to everything that was going on. I couldn't believe he turned down $30 million. And it's not about the money. It's just about the blessings that you can have when you have that type of money and who you are as a role model to kids. I mean, my son looked up to him, and my son, is a wide receiver. So he was one of those people that my son looked to get guidance on upgrading his skill level or watching film and that type of stuff. And I don't need them type of people being my role model for my son. And so I need him to have his stuff together. So I just pray that he gets it together. I think Tom Brady will be a great, he for Tom Brady to bring. I guess I'm pretty sure Tom Brady had something to do with him coming down there. So I think that would have said a lot to their relationship that he had for the brief moment when he was in New England.
James said, I'm gonna jump right back in it real quick if you don't mind. Coach Brian and Coach Smith, listen, man, I'm gonna tell you, I see it happen with kids at an early age, and I see it happen with adults at an older age. And man, I'm gonna tell you, I'm gonna be honest. You just never know what's going on in people's personal life that takes control of a weak spot that he's never been faced with. And I can speak to that because I got two boys of my own, and I got three athletes that I raised, a girl and two boys, and every last one of them are different. And I said to myself, I kept asking myself, I said, okay, if they're different, you know, what is it gonna look like, for these three? And man, I'm gonna tell you, they all different, and they all go through their own little stuff. Trust me. I just think knowing that Antonio Brown came out of Florida, and we was around him in the 707 circuit, the competition circuit, football and all that when we, up here in Florida. And I never saw all of that in that kid. Just straight dominant athlete, great support system. And then all of a sudden, when they get away, man, you just never know what takes control. And to this day, it hasn't been, released yet. But I'm quite sure it's more to it than just that mental health. I promise you that. There's some personal stuff that he got going on inside that head that, he's got to work on. Sometimes fame is just too much, and I'm just speaking from experience, that's all, and what I've seen and traveled in myself and, having 3 kids, 3 athletes and dealing with all this stuff. And I'm going to tell you, man, you just never know. And no, we don't want them looking, we don't want our kids following that, man. That's just kind of like the standard. That's like the standard rule for mothers and fathers, and coaches. But man, I'm going to tell you, boy, these days, man, you just don't know. You have no idea. I done seen some stuff in Baton Rouge. Make you just drop your head and don't never raise it up again. Yes. That's it, James. I'm gonna stop.
So we're gonna have to have some. We're gonna talk